secret to growing your business wasn't doing more, but doing less better. Today's guest proves that getting laser focused on who you serve and how you help can completely transform your revenue, your team, and your impact. You're listening to the next episode of Main Street Success Stories podcast. I'm your host, Jennifer Koch, a 25-year entrepreneur, and I created Main Street Success Stories to share others' journeys to help you learn, grow, stay motivated, and most importantly, know that you're not alone in this game called entrepreneurship. Today's episode is packed with insight and inspiration from Jackie Benjamin, the founder of We Assist Marketing. Jackie shares how she went from doing all the things to niching down into outbound social media for home service businesses, and why that bold move made her business more profitable, more referable, and more aligned with her mission to help women. If you've been afraid to niche, unclear in your messaging, or just trying to do it all, this conversation is exactly what you need. I invite you to grab your earbuds and listen in. Welcome to the Main Street Success Stories podcast. I'm your host, Jennifer Koch. I've been a business owner for about 25 years, and now I'm a business coach. I actually turned my first business into a franchise and successfully sold it after owning and operating it for 20 years. I prioritize building a business while also building a life and love working with the creative entrepreneur. I mostly work with emerging business owners who desire growth. They are in their first 5 years of the journey and want a plan that's going to help them succeed for years to come. They're tired of not getting paid enough, feel stuck, and want more for their business and family. If you are a business owner and you're feeling stressed about how to attract more customers, you have a really good sales month, but then you look at your bank account and wonder where the money went. You look at your financial statements, but if you're being honest, you're not really sure what to do with the information. And you just tell yourself, if I work harder, it'll fix all my issues, only to feel exhausted and never see things improve. You're here because you want to build your business, but you also want to build a life that you love. I invite you to learn more about one of my 3 coaching programs designed to help you earn more and stress less. You can choose which option works best for you. Imagine this. You have a clear plan and momentum, and you're gaining more clients every week. Your revenue climbs by 20% or more. You save 5 hours a week because you know exactly where to show up. You're experiencing double-digit growth in your profits. People refer customers to your business because they understand exactly who you help and what you do. If this is you and you desire more, reach out, let's have a conversation, and you can click in the show notes below. Hi, Jackie. Welcome to the show today.
Hey, Jennifer, thanks for having me. I'm honored to be here. I'm so glad that you asked me.
Well, it's such a, I always like the full circle story. You and I met about 3 or 4 years ago. We were in a group coaching program that was helping us build our businesses. And I loved how you and I just connected, and I love what you're doing. And so I'm so glad to have you here today.
Yeah, thanks. I'm excited.
So tell us what you do. The name of your business is called We Assist Marketing Agency, correct?
Yep, We Assist Marketing. Yep, that's correct.
And tell us a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, so we do outbound social media management. So a little bit different than your traditional social media managers in that we are doing all the traditional things. So we're creating content for people and posting it and scheduling it. We're answering comments and DMs, but we're also taking it a step further for businesses that want to elevate their relationship building online. So we are going out on behalf of our clients and liking, following, engaging with comment of other businesses that might be good collaboration partners or referral partners, or bring them into jobs, contracts, that type of thing. So we primarily work in the home services space. So those relationships are very important. Everything's local. Everybody are local businesses. So building those relationships with other local businesses are important. And this is just another avenue to do that. So just a little bit extra on the social media side.
Okay, so that's what the outbound is all about. Because I was curious about that. And you're right. Most social media managers that I've talked with, they do all the great content and create it, do it for us and will respond to DMs. But I like this extra layer that you're adding where you are being proactive and trying to find more, what I call strategic referral partners for your clients.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely a different strategy. And what we've seen is that it works better and builds the relationships faster than just your traditional social media. So which there's nothing wrong with traditional social media. It just depends on what you want to get out of your social media presence. So it definitely, we've seen it, we've done both. And now we only do the outbound social media because we have seen such a difference for our clients.
That is awesome. So are you focusing on a certain platform, or are you all the platforms, or where's your kind of wheelhouse there?
So, because we're home services, we do traditionally focus on Facebook and Instagram. That's where most people are looking for home services. So, that's really where we have the biggest presence for our clients. We're getting into some TikTok and YouTube shorts as well. We'll be coming. So, you'll be hearing more about that from our business in the coming 6 months to a year. But really, a lot of it right now is Instagram and Facebook, and a lot of it depends on content that we can get from our clients, and of course, where their customers are.
Okay. So home services, you're working with the trades, is that?
Yeah, so working with the trades, so primarily HVAC, plumbers, electricians, home remodelers, roofers, those types of people, those types of businesses that really need to have that local presence on social media, but do not have time for it.
No. And do you ever get pushback there? Because I've actually talked to a few in that industry who say, I'm so busy, why do I need to market? Do you ever hear that
Yes,
in your world?
all the time, especially now it's summer. For the HVAC world, like this is their busy season. So right now, this is their time where they're saying we get so many referrals, we have so many jobs right now that we can't take anymore. We don't need to market. But what's going to happen is then if we're not marketing now throughout the summer, when the fall comes and it's their shoulder season where they're not as busy, then that's when they're going to need the marketing. It's going to be too late if they start in October. So that's why I try to explain that it's a year-long process, even though their business is very seasonal, and painters same, except they have a different season. So any of the home services are like that, but it's important to market throughout the whole year because you want to keep your business flowing, even though you might have spikes. You want to keep the times where it's not spiking consistent. So yes, I do hear that quite a lot.
And I think that's really important for all businesses because it can be really easy when you are thriving and you're in a season where clients are just coming to you and you have a wait list to pull back on networking, pull back on relationship building, pull back on the marketing. But you're right, marketing is a consistent tool. And, we all know consistency compounds. And it's just, that's a good reminder for all of us not to step off the gas. Because I hear that sometimes if they're feeling a little pinched financially. Well, I'm going to
Mhm.
step back on my marketing budget because I can just go do a little bit of that myself. And the reality is, you really can't. And not to pull off the marketing, not to take your foot off the gas when it comes to marketing.
Yes. And I think the difference is they could do that themselves, but they still have to do all of the other things for their business. So they could do it for themselves, but the reality is they still don't have time.
Right. And
So then
it
it
gets
doesn't happen.
forgotten. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I've
Yeah.
spent lots of time creating B rolls, thinking I'm going to create reels, and then it's 9 o'clock at night, and I'm like, oh shoot, I forgot to create that reel, and it never
Yeah.
happened. So no, I'm all about outsourcing and let others do what they're really good at, and because that's just not what I want to spend my time on. So
Yeah,
take us
exactly.
through how did you get started in a social media management business?
Yeah, so I was not ever going to be an entrepreneur. So that was not something that was in the cards for me. So I had a long career of consulting, IT consulting, software building, and I was working for a consulting company. And prior to starting this business, and I had a couple of personal things. My parents had died both within a short time of each other in 2018, and then I got sick at the end of the year. I took some time off. And as I was getting ready to go back to work, I woke up out of a sound sleep with two thoughts: start a business and help women. And then my third thought was, no way.
Right,
I,
like come
I
on.
went back to work. I went back to work, talked to my boss, the CEO at the time, about what was on my heart. And through a lot of conversations with him and a lot of investigating, just realized what I really wanted to do was start this business and see if I can provide jobs for women in order to change their lives. And so then before I knew it, I was launching this business. So originally, we had offered all kinds of services. So it wasn't just social media, it wasn't even just marketing. When I launched the business, we were doing everything for everybody. And then what happened is I started weeding out things. We're not going to do this. We're not going to do that. So that's kind of how I started getting into a couple different services. And we ended up with really a large amount of clients who were doing admin work with us and a large amount of clients who were doing digital marketing with us. So in that it was kind of, my business was kind of split down the middle.
Okay. So
So
let's
yeah,
back up a quick second.
yeah.
You're sleeping, you have this thought, start a business and help women. Where did the help
Yeah.
women come from? Was that
It's just, yeah, something I think it's interesting you asked me that because my boss at the time asked me the same question and we kind of explored that a little bit. And what I realized is that for the large part of my adult life and even before that, the things that I was doing with my spare time, spare money, the things that I was donating to in some way, contributing to with time or money were towards helping women in some way, shape, or form. So what that really came down to is, how can I combine what that passion was with a business and make a difference in that way. So that's really where that came from. And, it just had been a lifelong, I want to say almost, need to be a part of something that was helping women advance in some way.
that's what I love about small business owners is you will meet so many different small business owners and they all have a different story of why they chose to start. But usually somewhere in that story, it has nothing to do with them. It is always
Mhm.
about who the product or service is helping or how they can give back or the community. And I just love that spirit. And I feel like that's part of our DNA as entrepreneurs.
Mhm.
Not everybody thinks like that, but for some reason for us, we do think that way. And your business becomes a tool. And I love how
Mhm.
that was incorporated in you from day one. That's really, really cool and really impactful.
Yeah, thanks. And I agree with you. I think it's just something that is in your DNA. Might start doing something, you don't even realize why you're doing it until you sit down and reflect a little bit and understand why you want to either start the business or, contribute some of your time or your money, why that thing is important to you. But until you sit down and explore it a little bit, I think you do these things subconsciously and get started that way. So it is fascinating.
It is. It really is. Okay, so back to fast forward. You're doing everything for everybody, and you said you
Yeah.
kind of had almost two businesses under one roof. So part of it
Hmm.
was more like virtual assistant,
Right.
admin support, and then the other was marketing support. Was that probably was hard to not only communicate who you are and what you do, but it probably was pulling you in a couple different directions. Where did you go from there? Like, what were you noticing having these two kind of umbrellas of one business?
Yeah, so that's exactly what I noticed. It was so hard to describe what we did, and I would tell people, and people would look at me like with a confused look. I don't really understand. Who am I referring you to? So what really happened was COVID. So when COVID happened, had been in business for 6 months. We kind of had this split down the middle of the services we were offering, and then more of our clients started asking us for digital marketing, specifically social media management, because they hadn't been doing it, but now it was the only way that they could get out to their customers. So that's really when the shift happened for us, is that we had been split down the middle, but now we were really leaning towards the one side of digital marketing. We had done some email marketing and that type of thing too, but social media was really becoming more important. At this time, we still weren't niched into any kind of industry. So we were still doing the one thing now for everybody. So we were
Baby
getting
steps,
closer,
baby
right?
steps.
We were getting closer, but what I realized is that we would be able to help a lot of businesses, especially through this weird, uncertain time that we were in, that hadn't been paying attention to social media, didn't really understand how to use it for their business, but really realized that they needed to be a part of it. So once that happened, we leaned into the social media management piece of it. And I'm not going to say never looked back, because we kind of dipped into some other digital marketing services along the way, but realized that at the end of the day, this is where we need to be and we need to be experts here.
Did you find that when you did take that step into, we're just going to focus, not, I mean, digital marketing is big, and you even went a
Yes.
little more narrow, just social media. Did your revenue dip a little bit at the time? because you were kind of pulling away from maybe some consistent revenue with the virtual assistant
It
services?
didn't, which was the weirdest thing,
Oh,
which
that's
was is the big
encouraging.
concern. That's the big
Yes.
fear, right? Is that you're so concerned, worried that your revenue is going to take a hit because you're niching into something that, and it is counterintuitive. It seems like you're going even narrower and narrower into what you're offering, and that, of course, is going to narrow the pool of clients out there, but it really didn't. So what we and I didn't cut everything off, today's the day. We kind of phased our clients out, made sure they had some other solutions before we left them, but we didn't notice any dip. And then what was happening too is because we had niched into social media management, now I could talk to people about that specifically and people understood what we did. So now I started getting more referrals.
Yes, because I think what you said earlier is people didn't know who to refer to you. And I see that a lot and I hear that a lot because it is very hard to be very clear and so specific. Because, we got to remember people are hearing from 50 of us out there, right? They're bumping into people all the time, seeing their stuff online. And so, unless we're super clear, it is hard to be remembered and hard to know who could refer me. So I think what you said there was so profound. So I love the fact that you decided to lean into social media. Revenue didn't take a hit because I know that's a fear for a lot of clients. And sometimes it's okay. You might see it dip short term,
Yeah.
but it's going to come back around much quicker, 10 times so much quicker. What about profit? Because now all of a sudden you can really kind of hone in and be an expert and really get your tools and your systems grooving, which is where profit then starts to take off. Did you notice it also helped with your profit, or was it too soon?
Yeah, so it was a little too soon then, but what really did help is when we made the next shift into niche into home services.
Okay,
Because
so
now we have
take
a
me
look,
through that. What
yeah,
made you
yeah,
decide, like, how long was it till after
yeah.
you went from social media to home services?
It was probably a year
Okay.
when we were doing social media for everybody and anybody.
Mm-hmm.
But what happened was one of my first social media clients was a HVAC plumbing and electric company. And they're still one of our clients. So we had been working with them for a while. And then we kind of started gathering two pods, if you will. We were gathering home services businesses and nonprofits. So again, I was at the point where my business was almost split in half, where we were working with those two industries. And I decided to lean into home services because after working with this one and a bunch of others that came along after that, I realized again, this is a place we can really help and be impactful for these businesses. A lot of them are family owned, family run, generational businesses that are now entering into a new generation and need to be in this social media space and needed somebody to guide them there. So again, I found myself in split in two and then leaned into home services, which is when we saw more of the profit increase because now my team can be experts in one area as opposed to broad based knowledge in any client that we are signing at the time. Now we really know what we're doing with the HVAC space, for example, what the seasons are, what people need to talk about, what regulations are coming up. So it really helped with that because it helped us do things more efficiently because now we were experts in a space.
I think that's really impactful and something that no matter whether you're doing social media or you're a photographer or whatever your path is that people are hiring us to be their experts. They can go on multiple podcasts and teach themselves all sorts of things on YouTube, but at the end of the day they don't have time or want the bandwidth to do that. And so whatever we're providing, they're hiring us to be their expert. And I know that when we choose a lane, when we choose to niche, not only is it easier to market yourself, but now it's probably easier for your team. And like you said, more efficient, and then you do become more profitable. It just seems to make sense, but for some reason, as small business owners, we struggle to do this.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. Because it does seem it's daunting. First of all, it's daunting to pick a to pick a niche. How do you do that? So unless you have something that you are very passionate about, have knowledge in, or have some clients in, it's so broad and wide. So it's a little bit daunting to do that. But then of course it does feel like you're just narrowing the potential, your total acquirable market, right? So it feels like you are narrowing that down and there will be less revenue to go around when in fact it's just the opposite.
Yeah, and you're proof of that. And I think too, we don't have to get it right the first time. I don't know any business owner that ever started their business and today are doing the exact same thing they did when they started. We evolve, and like you went through those steps. You went through those steps of who you were going to serve and what you were going to offer, and it's okay. And so I think maybe we need to take the pressure off ourselves a little bit and choose something. And for you, I love the fact that you had some clients. So that was kind of your guide. And that's what I say to people. Look at who you're working with, or look at the work you are doing and what lights you up and what could you keep talking about over and over and over. Because you are going to have to keep talking about it over and over and over. And I think sometimes too, that's what holds entrepreneurs back. Because I had a gal say to me, "This seems so boring. I just keep talking about the same thing over and over and over." And I said, yeah, for you, it might feel that way. But your audience, it's not. They're leaning in because they maybe have only heard you say it once, not the 100 times you've said it.
Yes. And that's so true. And it does feel like, I think to your point of the iterations of it, is that it feels like, and especially if you've come from a corporate background, takes a long time, is hard, is a long process. But being a small business owner, that's really not the case. You have the ability to be more flexible than a large company and make changes and decisions based on what you're seeing with your numbers or your team or whatever it is, and make those changes relatively quickly and do some iterations and make some decisions. And guess what? If they don't work, you're going to make some other decisions. So it is an iterative process. And especially with everything changing so fast now anyway, with AI and everything going on in the world, it has to be an iterative process. You need to evolve and change with what's going on in your specific industry. And I think that's the beauty of being a small business.
It is. Well said. It really is. So, one of your goals when you started your business was to help women. So, tell me about your team. Tell me about how you have fulfilled that using your business. Like before, you were doing it with your personal funds and, from your corporate life. So, tell me how that's evolved for you and your focus today.
Yeah, so that's a great question. So, one of because one of my goals was to help women, sat down and started thinking about what does that look like. So, you know, there are so many ways to do that, but what I wanted to do was provide jobs for women so that their lives could be changed in some way. So when I brought on my first team member, and I've got 4 team members right now. So when I brought on my first team member, I was looking for somebody who was a woman, who was in a situation that, needed to change, and a job could do that for her. So it was, just somebody who had a job, was in a really not a good situation, and this was an opportunity for her to get out of that and to do something different. And so from there, it just kind of went into, looking for hiring women who are in areas, Guatemala specifically, who may not have a lot of opportunity because of, economy, culture, but were very talented and were able to, come on board and do the things that we're doing, with, no ramp up time. I mean, they had been doing a lot of these things already, just didn't have the opportunity. So 2 of my team members currently are in Guatemala. They're Guatemalan. I've had a couple of other team members that have been with us in the past in the same, from Guatemala as well. And it's just, it's so great to have them bring their perspective to the team because of the experience that they have. They're, like I said, very talented, and I'm lucky to have them all on my team. My whole team is much better at doing the things we do than I am. So I let them do that and try to stay out of their way.
That's a great CEO quote. It's like it's good to hire those that know more than we do in a certain area. So Jackie, I really applaud you in your business. You've been in business for about 7 years, and I love your heart behind why you started your business, but also that you took the steps to find your lane, and it's obviously working. And I love how you continue to evolve and add services to, provide more for your clients. What a great tool you are in their toolbox for these home service businesses. So thank you for sharing that journey, because I know it's not easy.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, thanks for letting me talk about it. It has been a fun, challenging, and exhausting, as every entrepreneur has goes through, right, a journey along the way. But yeah, we're just really glad to be in a place where we are able to help these home service businesses grow and change and delve into what it means, what social media looks like for them.
That's awesome. So what's next for you this coming year? Sounds like TikTok and YouTube are going to be added to your portfolio.
Yeah, TikTok and YouTube. I just brought my husband on as the head of research and innovation. So he is working on some cool stuff that I won't get into yet, but he's working on some cool stuff, some automations that will hopefully be rolling out by the end of the year, beginning of next year, for the home service businesses. So we're really excited about that.
Well, I'm going to have you back on in a year so that you can share what it's like to work with
Yeah.
your husband
Yes.
and share with us these fun innovations and everything that you've got going. Because I have a feeling where you're going to be a year from now is going to be that much better than where you are today.
Yeah, I would love that. That would be so fun.
So how can folks get a hold of you if they want to learn more about your outbound social media management?
Yeah, so they can connect with me on LinkedIn. Certainly, Jackie Benjamin on LinkedIn. I'm on there a bunch. They can also, if they wanted to schedule some time with me, do that right through our website. So it's weassistbusiness.com is our website. Or they can always just email me directly at Jackie, Jackie, .benjamin @weassistbusiness.com.
Awesome. And I'll make sure I put those links in so people can easily
Okay,
find you. Thank you for
great.
sharing your story. I really think it's very impactful. And I know that there's some nuggets out there that listeners can take away to help them grow their business. So thanks again for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jennifer. It's been fun.
If there's one thing to take away from this episode, it's that bookkeeping isn't just about numbers. It's about confidence, clarity, and control in your business. Whether you're DIYing it or outsourcing it, staying on top of your finances is a game changer. It helps you make smart decisions. It reduces stress. So please do not procrastinate when it comes to your finances. One way to make sure your business is staying profitable is to join my free webinar, 3 Keys to Growing a Profitable Business. You can join me live and get for Q&A time, or you can listen to the instant replay. Link is in the show notes below. Thanks so much for listening. Please share this episode, and if you could leave me a 5-star review, I would really appreciate it. It helps this podcast get into the hands of other small businesses just like you who are eager to grow their business. Until next time.